Good evening once again. I'm Ali Velshi in for Brian Williams, who will be back here on Monday. It is day 1260 of the Trump administration, 124 days until the presidential election. And this nation is heading into the big holiday weekend with a coronavirus case record now climbing. Today, more than 56,000 new infections have been reported. That is yet another record. The New York Times describes the pandemic situation over the past month as having spiraled out of control. It's so serious that today the governor of Texas did a controversial 180. He declared that wearing a mask in the Lone Star State is now mandatory in Texas. Today we learned that Trump campaign surrogate and former presidential candidate Herman Cain, seen here attending the Trump rally in Tulsa less than 2 weeks ago. He's been hospitalized with COVID-19. And new tonight, the Washington Post reports Vice President Pence's trip to Arizona this week had to be postponed from Tuesday to Wednesday after several Secret Service agents either tested positive for coronavirus or had shown symptoms of being infected. We're going to speak to one of the reporters from this breaking story just ahead. But despite all of this, President Trump, who's about to headline a July 4th event at Mount Rushmore, where the governor has specifically said social distancing will not be required, continues to put forward a very different reality across this country.
The crisis is being handled. Something to think about. China was way early, and they're getting under control just now. And Europe was way early, and they're getting under control. We are likewise getting under control. Some areas that were very hard hit are now doing very well. Some were doing very well, and we thought they may be gone, and they flare up, and we're putting out the fires. But other places were long before us. And they're now, it's a life, it's got a life. And we're putting out that life, because that's a bad life that we're talking about. Now we're opening it up, and it's opening up far faster than anybody thought even possible.
I'm not going to use profanity on this show, so let me say that is nowhere near the assessment of the nation's leading infectious disease expert, who happens to serve on the administration's coronavirus task force. Days after Dr. Anthony Fauci said the United States may soon see as many as 100,000 new cases a day. Remember, we had 56,000 today. He offered yet another stark warning in an interview today with BBC Radio.
In an attempt to so-called reopen or open the government and get it back to some form of normality, we're seeing very disturbing spikes in different individual states. What we've seen over the last several days is a spike in cases that are well beyond the worst spikes that we've seen. That is not good news. We've got to get that under control, or we risk an even greater outbreak in the United States. We never got things down to baseline where so many countries in Europe and the UK and other countries did. They closed down to the tune of about 97% lockdown. In the United States, even in the most strict lockdown, only about 50% of the country locked down. That allowed the perpetuation of the outbreak.
All right, that's Fauci. Another task force member, the point person on testing, seemed to break with Trump's optimistic view of the pandemic as well at a hearing today with the House Coronavirus Subcommittee.
Will it disappear miraculously?
We will only gain control over COVID-19 by disciplined public health measures and eventually a vaccine.
I often hear, and I've heard my colleagues here say this last time around, that the increase in the positive cases is due to increased testing. Does that account for the increase that we're seeing in those states?
We do believe this is a real increase in cases because the percent positivities are going up.
At least 39 states are now dealing with escalating cases, and Florida and Texas are once again coronavirus epicenters, with hospitalizations in Texas now well past 7,000. Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican who for weeks has strongly opposed efforts to require masks, changed course.
COVID-19 is not going away. In fact, it's getting worse. Today, I am issuing a face covering requirement for all counties with more than 20 COVID cases.
Then there's Florida, which set a new record with more than 10,000 cases in a single day. Another task force member, Dr. Deborah Bix, is now pleading with people there to take precautions and to get tested.
If you participated in a large gathering in the last 4 weeks, we ask all of you to come forward and be tested because of the level of asymptomatic spread. So we're asking for everyone under 40 that if you were in a gathering, please go and get tested. Please wear a mask. Please do all of the hygiene issues. And please stay away from those who have comorbidities.
Nearly 130,000 Americans have lost their lives to this virus, and it's not over. It's not close to over. According to the Centers for Disease Control, there will likely be, quote, between 140,000 and 160,000 total reported COVID-19 deaths by July 25th. That's 3 weeks from now. As we mentioned, in the thick of this crisis, the president travels to South Dakota tomorrow for an Independence Day celebration at Mount Rushmore. About 7,500 people have expressed an interest in being there. Medical experts and some local officials worry that that event could lead to an outbreak of COVID infections. South Dakota's governor said there won't be any social distancing and mask wearing will be up to the attendees. Now, while there, the president is likely to continue talking up the economy as he did today. The Labor Department this morning said that nearly 5 million Americans returned to work last month as the unemployment rate fell to 11.1%. That data was compiled before the recent spike in cases and before states began to stop or scale back reopening plans. And another 1.4 million Americans did file first-time unemployment claims last week. That's the 15th straight week that initial jobless claims remained above 1 million. And with all of this, the White House still has not laid to rest the questions about allegations that Russia offered payments to Taliban-linked militants in Afghanistan to kill American and coalition troops. The nation's top intelligence officials were on Capitol Hill today to brief the so-called Gang of Eight. That is the 8 members of the House and the Senate. They're the leaders of both the House and the Senate, both parties, plus the leaders of the House and Senate intelligence committees. That's the Gang of Eight. Trump has said that he wasn't briefed about the allegations because the intelligence wasn't verified. His former national security advisor says he doesn't buy that explanation.
I think he's trying to avoid responsibility. The president has trouble owning decisions. So when a decision gets made that doesn't go quite the way people hope, suddenly it wasn't his decision. It's hard for me to believe that somebody didn't tell him about it. The biggest problem is not what is said in or not said in the oral briefs. It's that I didn't see in 17 months any evidence the president read the PDB itself.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.